Hello, I'm Nicola. This is a really short video to help explain what you should expect if you have past life regression therapy. The past life regression therapy itself is taking you under hypnosis to explore your previous lives. There's lots of theories about past lives. I believe that we probably have simply experienced past lives in some way, in some form. But there's lots of theories around this. It's quite a fascinating subject to read about, actually. And some therapists prefer to see it as the subconscious conjuring up a metaphor for us to explain what's happening in our lives today. Either way, it will have no therapeutic difference on your therapy at all. There's nothing that you have to do beforehand. You don't have to have a certain belief system or not in order to have the hypnotherapy and to explore some of your own fascinating previous lives. The therapy itself, the therapist will first put you under hypnosis. You'll probably still be quite aware of your surroundings. It's not a particularly deep trance because the therapist will want to be able to guide you through the process and will want responses from you. So first of all, you'll be guided to an actual life. Depending on your reasons for therapy, you may want to go to a specific life or a specific time period to try and find a specific person, or look for a specific reason, an underlying cause for a symptom such as anxiety. Or, which is probably more common, is to just let your subconscious guide you to the life that's most relevant for you. Once you're there, the therapist will ask you a series of questions and you will have a continued dialogue with the therapist throughout the session. You may not feel that you've been hypnotised even, because you will be quite aware of what's going around. It's a little bit like if you doze off and you're not quite sure if you've dozed off or not, but you've been aware of what's going on around in your environment, that kind of level of depth of hypnosis. They will then take you through to different time periods within that life, so you have a sense of the life as a whole. So the therapist will be continually guiding you through, and that is helpful in this type of therapy, because it's very easy just to get caught up in one single experience. And although it's really enjoyable and really fascinating in itself, to have the therapy, you really want to have a better understanding of exactly where it was in history and as much information as you can about who you were. How it benefits us and why it's a therapy is almost as varied as the reasons that people have the therapy. It can just be for interest, it can just be for a specific problem, it can be for because they're fascinated with a particular time in history. So it's a very unique journey for each and every person, and the therapy therefore is quite unique to you, and the benefits will be unique for you. But as an example, even if you just go for interest, you haven't got a specific reason, say you feel that you're quite a reckless person, but that is just, you feel who you are. You wouldn't go for therapy for it. You wouldn't see it as a particular issue or something you need to resolve. It causes you a few problems in your life, but that's just who you are and you're fine with that. If you went perhaps into a previous life where it was very obvious that being overly cautious had caused you some great problems in that life, afterwards it's very clear to you that actually the person that you are is not this reckless person, but this recklessness is in response to your memories of this previous life, and you're trying to balance that out. Just that knowledge can have a profound impact on how we make decisions and how we are and how we live our lives. And that kind of thing just often bubbles up with this type of therapy. So it is very useful. And for anybody, just seeing yourself, the person that you are, in a completely different circumstance, in a completely different scenario, can just be so empowering. When you think about how much we identify with how we look, the car we drive, the house we've got, the family we've got, the job we've got, the qualifications we've got, we identify ourselves as being part of this. And to be taken completely out of that and put in a completely different circumstance is just very empowering. It makes us very much more resilient and happier to take on challenges and changes. So it really is quite an important therapy from that point of view. If you want to know a little bit more about how a session progresses, a little bit more in depth, then I will put a link to a podcast that I did some time ago, and that takes you through a lot of the boring bits have been taken out actually, but you will have a much better sense of how you're actually taken into hypnosis and the sort of questions that you're asked. And I'll put a link in there. It's a podcast with Weird Tales and the Unexplainable, and that was quite a fun thing to do with them. And that just gives you a bit more information about what to expect from a session itself. So I hope that's answered some of your questions. It's a fascinating subject, wonderful to read about people's different experiences and watch YouTube channels and that type of thing, but there is nothing as fascinating as actually going on your own journey and seeing yourself in a completely different time period, in a completely different physical sense of yourself. It's just really so fascinating and a wonderful thing to do with people. So thank you so much for listening, and please check out the podcast as well. Thank you.